welcome to the Teaching Corner. In our last video, we talked about the 4 functions of behavior, and that could be social attention, it could be to obtain something, it can be to avoid something, or it can be because of sensory stimulation. So now we're going to talk about how to effectively deal with this behavior. So there are 4 main ways that we can deal with behavior, and we have positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative punishment. Now, before you get upset when you hear the word punishment, let me explain what these mean. So positive means that you give something, and negative means that you take something away, and reinforcement means that you want to see a particular behavior increase. You're reinforcing that behavior. And punishment just means that you want to see a behavior decrease. You want to see less of that behavior. Now, before we go on, let me remind you that when we're doing this and we're trying to help a student change a particular behavior, you want to increase the behaviors you want to see, and you want to decrease certain behaviors. Remember, if we don't replace the behavior that we're trying to decrease, we may decrease that particular behavior, but they will most certainly then put in a different behavior that can sometimes be worse than the behavior that we just tried to reduce or get rid of. So always make sure you're doing the 2 at the same time. You're increasing one behavior and decreasing another behavior. For example, if you have a student who's constantly blurting out in class and you want to decrease the amount of times that he's blurting out, you want to increase the amount of times that he's raising his hand to gain that attention. Okay, so we're decreasing one and increasing the other. So positive reinforcement, positive means you're giving something, and reinforcement, you want to see that behavior increase, means that you give the student something after they do a desired behavior. For example, you might give a student praise. They do something, good job. You might give a token. You might give tokens, and once they add up, they get some kind of small prize. So you are you're giving them something, and it could be verbal praise, it could be a high five, it could be a good job. It doesn't have to be tangible, but you're giving them something, and then you want to see that behavior increase. Now, negative reinforcement means that you are taking something away that the child doesn't like after they exhibit a behavior that you do like. So in our last video, we talked about a student who would run out of the classroom when it was time for math. So it might be that I tell the student, if you do this 1 row of math problems nicely, I'll take the piece of paper away and you don't have to do the rest. So that's negative reinforcement. I'm taking away what the student doesn't like doing after he's done something I want him to do, which is doing the problems without throwing a tantrum or without running out of his desk. All right. Positive punishment means that you give the student something they don't like after an undesirable behavior in order for the behavior to decrease. For example, you could give the child a demerit. You know, back in the old days, moms would put hot sauce on a child's thumb to get them to stop sucking their thumb. So you're giving them something after a negative behavior that you're seeing because you want that behavior to decrease. It's an adverse type of thing. And then negative punishment means you take away something that is reinforcing to the student after an undesirable behavior. A lot of parents will do this, like grounding a student, or perhaps they were playing a game and one child hit the brother, and the game itself, being a part of the game, is reinforcing to the student. So you remove the student and he from the game, so he no longer has access to the thing that he wants to do. Or maybe if you were on a token system, you take a token away for an undesirable behavior. It's important, however, to remember with reinforcement, we're trying to get a behavior to increase. And with punishment, we're trying to get a behavior to decrease. It also should be noted that research shows that positive consequences are much more powerful than negative consequences for improving behavior. Therefore, they suggest that interventions with positive reinforcement should be tried before negative reinforcement, etc. Also, again, remember, you want to increase one behavior while you're decreasing another behavior. And I'll put a link down below with information on how to deal with behavior. So if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, share it with others that would find this information helpful, and I'll see you later. Bye.